The Clark Art Institute's latest exhibit, Promenades on Paper, 18th Century French Drawings from the Bibliotheque de France, looks to expand viewers' understanding of art and its purpose during 18th century France. Promenades on Paper features over 80 drawings which depict historic events, costume design, and flora and fauna, many of which are on display for the first time. I spoke with Curatorial Fellow Sarah Grandin to hear more about the exhibit.
The director of the Clark Art Institute, Olivier Millet, is longtime friends with the deputy director of the prints and photography department at the French National Library, Corinne Lebetuzet. And over a dinner, I think around 2018, they hatched this plan. Wouldn't it be amazing to feature drawings from the French National Library, which are bizarrely very little studied and little known? And because there are millions of work at the BNF, if I use the term BNF, I'm talking about the French National Library, because they speak in terms of kilometers of books and maps and prints and drawings and photographs, there was just a lot to uncover and a lot to discover.
And so there's over 80 works in this exhibition at the Clark, and it looks to expand our understanding of drawing as a tool of documentation. And so through this lens, what do we learn about life in 18th century France?
Drawing was not merely the tool, or sort of exclusively the tool, of professional artists such as painters, sculptors, and architects in 18th century France. It also became a practice and a tool for engineers and for amateurs, for art lovers, for children, for scientists. And so because of this, and because of the collecting practices of the BNF, which wasn't interested exclusively in sort of masterpieces by the greatest artists of art history, they were interested in images that served a sort of educational and documentary purpose. And because of that, we get a really wide variety of drawings at our disposal. So we have a couple of really interesting examples in the exhibition that show drawings' capacity to document things and events. Because of course, this is before the advent of photography. So you couldn't just pick up a camera if you wanted to document something, you had to draw it yourself. And so there's an entire portion of the exhibition dedicated to drawing's function in this regard. A favorite of mine is a drawing by Charles Perrocel from 1727, beautifully rendered in different media in red chalk, black chalk, pen and ink. And it captures the precise moment that the Turkish ambassador, Mehmed Effendi, steps onto the stairs of the Tuileries Palace, which has since been demolished, which no longer exists. He was about to meet with the 11-year-old Louis XV to negotiate the release of enslaved Ottoman citizens who were being held on galleys in the French Mediterranean. So you have this huge historical event, and this is the only image we have that documents this precise moment in the diplomatic visit, because this drawing was supposed to serve as a preparatory drawing for a tapestry that was never made. So all we have is this drawing. So it's incredibly precious in the way that it captures an event that is sort of so important to history.
And, you're speaking to the variety that exists within this collection. I mean, we're talking about historical events like you just mentioned, drawings for costume design, flora and fauna. You were hands-on in visiting France to pick some of these drawings. So what was it that you were looking for? What was your process in selecting these works?
That's such a great question. And yeah, it's definitely interesting in the case of this exhibition to learn a little bit about what went on behind the scenes, because it's atypical. Usually an exhibition, it might focus on a particular artist or a particular school or a theme of some kind. And we had sort of an opposite process where we thought, okay, well, what are the drawings? Where are they? What are the best ones, the most visually captivating or the most accomplished? So we were looking for drawings that would be beautiful, that were in good condition, that would be visually enticing to look at, that would be worth all of the effort of study and transporting them across the Atlantic and getting them matted and framed and looked at by conservators. So we were looking for drawings by known and appreciated artists. So, I mean, the 18th century France gets off the beaten track for a lot of people, even those who really love art history. But we're talking about names like Jean-Honoré Fragonard, François Boucher, Jean-Étienne Lyotard, great architects and great draftsmen such as Boulay and Lequeux. But the thing that happened through our sifting through boxes and albums that were often organized by geography or subject matter or theme or by the history of the collection is that all of these drawings emerged about which we knew absolutely nothing. And that often meant that we didn't know who the artist was. So we have drawings by unknown artists, unknown makers in this exhibition, which is kind of unusual. And we also have drawings by artists about whom we knew almost nothing before this exhibition and before we started doing research on the drawings. So, I mean, that gets me to two of my absolute favorite drawings in this exhibition by a woman named Émilie Beugneux. And one of the drawings is of a hunk of this mineral specimen. The other is of these beautiful shells produced in gouache on vellum, which is prepared calfskin. And we sent colleagues into the French National Archives to recover her after-death inventory to correctly establish her life dates, learn more about her life and her artistic practice. So through our attention to these beautiful drawings, we also sort of expanded the roster of makers to whom we might want to turn our attention as art historians in the future.
One thing that I was reading that interested me in this exhibit is that it showcases the evolution of drawing outside of that academic setting. So can you speak to that transition about different tools and methods that were used in order to make art happen outside of academia?
Yes. So we begin the exhibition with what I kind of like to refer to it as bait, this really, really stunning academic drawing of a male nude by Greuze, this really accomplished French painter. And that's the kind of drawing that students at the Royal Academy of Painting and Sculpture would have produced as part of their study. So that's what we think of when we think of 18th century French drawings, if we're familiar with the practice. This exhibition shows indeed that drawing happened outside of the Louvre, which is where these painters and sculptors were learning how to draw and perfecting their art. So we have, for example, an entire wall in the exhibition dedicated to drawings by amateurs, including one of my favorite drawings in the exhibition, a drawing by Marie Clotilde de France, who was a princess. And at the age of 14, she visited the print cabinet and she spent the entire afternoon poring over prints and drawings. And she loved it so much that she apparently had to be teared from the premises. She was kicked out of the library. And afterwards, she gave this drawing that she herself produced, and it was preserved by the keeper of the print cabinet. And we now have it today, this beautiful landscape drawing that she produced at the age of 14. So her facility in drawing exemplifies the fact that noble, elite, and sort of royal children were learning how to draw as part of their sort of regular instruction. And this include, courses with accomplished artists, but they also often studied after prints and drawings. And so print became a really important element in the explosion of drawing, collecting, and production in the 18th century. People who wanted to learn how to draw could buy drawing manuals. And so we have works in the exhibition that reflect that practice. And then drawing was, of course, a very important tool for architects, for engineers, for scientists, and also for artists who specialized in the decorative arts. So we have an entire panel and a sort of entire wall in the exhibition that shows drawings that would have been proposed to Louis XV so that he could select new furnishings and new decorative objects such as silver candelabra or carpeted folding screens. So drawing definitely busted out of the academy and was used in many contexts in the period.